Success is never an accident. It is not created in one dramatic moment, nor does it arrive overnight with noise and applause. It is built quietly, patiently, through small daily habits that seem almost invisible at first. The life you admire in others is often the result of consistent actions repeated when no one was watching, when there was no praise, no recognition, and no guarantee of reward. What looks like talent is often discipline in disguise. What appears to be luck is usually preparation meeting opportunity after years of unseen effort. Small habits are powerful because they shape your direction without demanding instant perfection. They do not overwhelm you with impossible standards, instead, they gently push you forward each day. They work silently in the background, turning ordinary days into extraordinary outcomes. Over time, these small repeated behaviors accumulate into skill, character, and confidence. And when the results finally become visible, people may call it sudden success, but you will know it was built slowly, intentionally, and faithfully through daily commitment. Every day you wake up, you are either reinforcing old patterns or creating new ones. There is no neutral ground in personal growth. The smallest decision, waking up on time instead of snoozing the alarm, choosing discipline over distraction, speaking kindly instead of reacting emotionally, begins to reshape your character in subtle but powerful ways. These small moments may feel insignificant in isolation, but together they form the foundation of who you are becoming. Habits define your identity far more than occasional bursts of motivation ever could. They are the architects of your future, designing your destiny one repeated action at a time. Each choice casts a vote for the type of person you want to be. When you consistently choose growth, responsibility, and focus, you slowly transform your internal standards. Over weeks and months, those repeated behaviors solidify into character traits. And character, more than circumstance, determines the quality and direction of your life. Big goals can feel overwhelming. They can intimidate you before you even begin, making the finish line seem so distant that starting feels pointless. When you focus only on the magnitude of the goal, your mind magnifies the difficulty and minimizes your capability. But small habits remove fear. They make progress manageable and realistic. Instead of focusing on changing your entire life in a single day, you focus on improving just one behavior. One page read. One workout completed. One healthy meal chosen. 1 hour of focused work. That is how transformation begins. When you break a mountain into steps, climbing becomes possible. Each small victory builds evidence that you are capable. And with every completed habit, your confidence grows stronger. You stop seeing your goals as threats and start seeing them as processes. The journey becomes less about pressure and more about rhythm. Small habits create momentum, and momentum makes even the biggest ambitions achievable. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. You do not need extreme motivation every day. You do not need to feel inspired or emotionally driven at all times. What you need is commitment, the quiet decision to show up regardless of how you feel. Motivation is emotional and temporary, it rises and falls like a wave. Habits, however, are steady. They anchor you when your emotions fluctuate. When an action becomes a habit, you no longer debate whether to do it, you simply do it. There is no internal negotiation, no dramatic struggle. It becomes part of who you are. That is where real growth happens. Intensity may create short bursts of progress, but consistency builds endurance. It creates reliability. Over time, steady repetition outperforms occasional effort. The person who works moderately every day will always surpass the one who works intensely only when they feel like it. Consistency builds trust within yourself, and that internal trust becomes unstoppable strength. Small habits compound over time. Just as money grows with interest, your daily actions multiply in impact far beyond what you can immediately see. A few minutes of learning every day can turn into expertise after years of steady study. A few minutes of reflection can build emotional strength and self-awareness. A few minutes of planning can prevent chaos and confusion before they begin. The results may not show immediately, but they are always building beneath the surface. Growth often happens quietly before it becomes visible. Just as a seed develops roots underground before breaking through the soil, your habits are forming a foundation long before success becomes noticeable. The danger is quitting too soon because the rewards are delayed. But if you remain consistent, the compound effect becomes undeniable. Small efforts, when repeated daily, create exponential change. And one day, what seemed insignificant will reveal itself as the turning point of your life. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It is the decision to honor your future by acting wisely in the present. When you keep promises to yourself through small daily habits, you strengthen your confidence in ways that no external praise can provide. Each completed task sends a message to your mind: I am reliable. I follow through. I can trust myself. This internal trust becomes the foundation of long-term success. Without it, doubt grows. With it, resilience expands. Discipline is not about harsh restriction, it is about alignment. It aligns your actions with your values. It closes the gap between what you say you want and what you actually do. Over time, self-discipline reduces inner conflict because your behavior matches your intentions. And when your actions consistently reflect your goals, progress becomes inevitable. Discipline becomes less about force and more about identity. It becomes who you are. Habits shape your mindset more than you realize. The brain adapts to repetition, strengthening neural pathways based on what you practice daily. When you practice gratitude daily, your perspective shifts toward abundance instead of scarcity. You begin noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. When you practice focus daily, your mind becomes sharper, less scattered, and more disciplined. When you practice calmness daily, stress gradually loses its power over you because you train yourself to respond rather than react. The way you think is trained by what you repeatedly do. Mindset is not fixed, it is conditioned. And habits are the conditioning mechanism. If you repeatedly feed your mind negativity, distraction, and chaos, that becomes your default state. But if you consistently engage in intentional, positive routines, your mental environment transforms. Over time, your thoughts become allies instead of enemies. Your habits quietly program your beliefs, and your beliefs ultimately shape your life. Your environment responds to your habits more than you may realize. The way you structure your daily actions gradually shapes the physical and emotional spaces around you. Order creates clarity. When you consistently return things to their place, clean your surroundings, and maintain simple organization, your mind feels less burdened. Clean spaces create focused minds because there are fewer distractions competing for your attention. Organized schedules create productive days because you are no longer reacting randomly to whatever demands your time. Instead, you move with direction. When your daily actions reflect intention, your surroundings begin to mirror that intention. You become the kind of person who prepares instead of postpones, who plans instead of panics. Over time, your environment starts supporting your growth rather than sabotaging it. The energy of your space aligns with your discipline, and that alignment reduces stress, increases efficiency, and strengthens your sense of control over your life. Small habits eliminate excuses because they remove the illusion that success requires perfect timing or ideal conditions. Many people delay action while waiting for motivation, resources, or the right moment. But small habits teach you that progress does not depend on perfection. You do not wait for the right moment, you create it through consistent effort. Even on difficult days, small actions are still possible. A short workout is better than none. A single paragraph written is better than silence. A brief moment of reflection is better than mindless distraction. These small efforts protect your momentum. They prevent the downward spiral that often begins with "I'll start tomorrow." When you lower the barrier to entry, excuses lose their power. You stop negotiating with yourself and start moving forward. And once forward movement becomes normal, procrastination weakens. Small habits replace hesitation with action, and action gradually builds a life defined by progress instead of postponement. Growth is rarely dramatic. It is subtle, gradual, and often invisible while it is happening. You will not notice the change day by day because transformation rarely announces itself. It unfolds quietly in the background of ordinary routines. But weeks later, you will see improvement in your strength, your focus, your confidence. Months later, others will notice it too. Years later, your entire life may look completely different from where you started. That is the power of repetition guided by intention. Just as erosion reshapes landscapes over time, small repeated actions reshape your character and results. The challenge is trusting the process when evidence feels slow. Many abandon growth because they expect instant feedback. But real development requires patience. It demands faith in consistency. When you commit to daily improvement, you accept that progress is a long-term investment. And that long-term investment eventually produces extraordinary change. Your confidence grows when you master small things. Confidence is not built through grand achievements alone, it is strengthened through daily proof of competence. You do not gain confidence by thinking about success or visualizing it endlessly. You gain it by practicing discipline and completing what you start. Completing small daily commitments strengthens your belief in your own abilities because each completion becomes evidence. You begin to trust yourself in practical ways. You know that when you set a task, you will follow through. That self-trust is powerful. It reduces anxiety because you rely less on hope and more on habit. Over time, your identity shifts from someone who tries to someone who executes. Confidence becomes less about external validation and more about internal consistency. It becomes grounded, stable, and earned. And that kind of confidence cannot be easily shaken because it is rooted in repeated action. Energy follows action, not the other way around. Many people wait to feel energized before they begin, but often the energy they seek is created through movement. When you take small positive steps, you generate momentum. Momentum creates motivation. Once you start, even in a small way, resistance begins to shrink. The hardest part is beginning because your mind exaggerates effort before action starts. But once you move, progress becomes more natural. Small habits reduce resistance because they feel achievable. They do not overwhelm you with impossible expectations. Instead, they gently pull you forward. As momentum builds, productivity becomes less of a struggle and more of a rhythm. You begin to associate action with progress instead of pressure. Over time, starting becomes easier because your brain recognizes the reward of completion. Action fuels energy, and energy fuels further action. This cycle, sustained daily, becomes a powerful engine for growth. Self-control improves with practice just like any other skill. It is not a trait reserved for a few disciplined individuals, it is strengthened through repeated choices. Each time you choose long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, you strengthen your willpower. Each time you delay gratification, you expand your capacity for patience. At first, these choices may feel uncomfortable because they challenge familiar impulses. But over time, the discomfort decreases. The behavior becomes easier. What once required intense effort begins to feel natural. Eventually, that strength becomes automatic. You stop fighting yourself because your habits align with your goals. Instead of constant internal conflict, you experience cooperation between desire and discipline. Self-control becomes less about restriction and more about clarity. You understand what truly matters, and that understanding simplifies your decisions. Repeated wisely, small disciplined choices transform into a powerful foundation of personal strength. Habits protect you from emotional decision-making by providing structure when feelings fluctuate. Emotions are powerful, but they are also temporary and unpredictable. If you base your action solely on how you feel, your progress will constantly rise and fall. But when your day is structured by positive routines, you rely on systems instead of moods. You wake up and follow your routine whether you feel inspired or tired. You complete your tasks whether you feel excited or bored. This consistency stabilizes your life. Systems are far more dependable than temporary emotions because they remove unnecessary decision fatigue. Instead of repeatedly asking yourself what to do, your habits answer for you. This frees mental energy for creativity and deeper thinking. Over time, structure becomes liberating rather than restrictive. You experience greater freedom because your discipline protects you from impulsive setbacks. And with that protection, steady growth becomes sustainable. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary often lies in repetition. Many people know what to do. They understand the importance of discipline, focus, learning, health, and persistence. Information is everywhere. Advice is abundant. But knowledge without daily action changes nothing. Understanding a principle is not the same as practicing it. The extraordinary are not separated by secret strategies, they are separated by consistent execution. Small actions repeated faithfully create remarkable results because repetition transforms effort into mastery. It refines skill. It strengthens discipline. It builds resilience. When you commit to repeating the right behaviors day after day, Even when they feel simple or unimpressive, you begin to distance yourself from average performance. Excellence is rarely explosive, it is repetitive. It is showing up long after excitement fades. It is practicing when others stop. Over time, that repetition compounds into results that appear extraordinary to outsiders, but are simply the outcome of disciplined consistency. Small habits teach patience in a world that demands immediacy. Modern culture encourages quick results, instant gratification, and rapid success. But lasting achievement follows a slower rhythm. It grows through consistent effort applied over time. When you commit to small daily improvements, you learn to respect that rhythm. You begin to understand that meaningful progress cannot be rushed without weakening its foundation. Small habits remind you that every worthwhile result requires steady nurturing. Just as a tree cannot be forced to grow taller overnight, your goals cannot be forced into existence instantly. Patience becomes a strength rather than a frustration. You stop chasing shortcuts and start building substance. This shift changes your mindset from urgency to stability. Instead of being discouraged by slow results, you find confidence in the process itself. And when patience guides your habits, you create success that is not only achieved, but sustained. Improvement is a daily choice. It is not about perfection, nor is it about flawless execution. It is about progress, steady, intentional movement forward. Even becoming 1% better each day leads to dramatic change over time. That small margin of improvement may seem insignificant in a single moment, but compounded over months and years, it becomes transformative. Small daily effort, when sustained, creates unstoppable growth because it builds momentum gradually. You do not overwhelm yourself with impossible standards. Instead, you ask, how can I improve slightly today? That question keeps you engaged without discouragement. It invites growth without pressure. When improvement becomes a lifestyle rather than an event, you stop fearing mistakes. You see them as part of refinement. Each day becomes an opportunity to adjust, learn, and advance. And over time, those tiny improvements reshape your abilities, your mindset, and your future in powerful ways. Your identity is shaped by your habits more than by your intentions. If you write daily, you become a writer, not because you declared it, but because your actions reinforce it. If you train daily, you become disciplined, not because you wish to be, but because your behavior proves it. If you learn daily, you become knowledgeable, not through desire alone, but through repetition. Actions define identity far more than intentions ever will. Each repeated behavior casts a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. Over time, those votes accumulate into self-perception. You begin to see yourself differently, not based on hopes, but based on evidence. This identity shift is powerful because behavior that aligns with identity becomes easier to maintain. When you see yourself as disciplined, you act accordingly. When you see yourself as consistent, you protect your routines. Habits do not just shape results, they shape who you are. Life does not change in one giant leap. It changes through quiet commitment. Through showing up when it is easy and when it is difficult. Through choosing discipline when comfort calls your name. Those small daily victories may feel insignificant in isolation, but together they create powerful transformation. Each time you honor your commitment despite distraction or fatigue, you strengthen your resilience. Each time you act in alignment with your long-term vision instead of short-term comfort, you reinforce your growth. Progress is built in these quiet decisions. They rarely attract attention. They rarely feel dramatic. But they accumulate. Over months and years, those repeated choices separate the person you once were from the person you become. Transformation is not loud, it is steady. It is built in ordinary moments handled with extraordinary consistency. And those ordinary moments, managed wisely, shape your entire future. So focus on today. Do not overwhelm yourself with years ahead or become paralyzed by distant ambitions. Choose one habit that moves you closer to your best self. Protect it fiercely. Repeat it faithfully. Improve it gradually. Let small actions guide your transformation rather than dramatic bursts of effort that fade quickly. When you master today, you build momentum for tomorrow. When you respect the power of one disciplined action, you unlock the potential of many. Success does not demand perfection, it demands consistency. In the end, it is not the grand gestures, the sudden breakthroughs, or the dramatic declarations that change your life. It is the small daily habits, practiced with intention, repeated with patience, and protected with discipline. Those habits quietly construct the future you desire. And if you commit to them starting now, your life will begin to transform in ways that once seemed impossible. Thank you for watching.